Hello and welcome to Tea with Jess. I'm Jess Montgomery and I'm the author of the Kinship Historical Mystery Series. And here I am with my Tea with Jess mug, having my tea break. As one of my characters likes to say, life is hard, have tea. So today I'm not having tea alone. Well, I'm never having tea alone when I'm having tea with Jess, right? I'm having tea with all of you out there. And I'm happy for those who can join me live, and I'm happy for those of you who watch later. But today we're joined by Hannah Mary McKinnon. She's a best-selling suspense novelist. She's been with us before, so I'm happy to welcome her back. You might recall that her novels include You Will Remember Me, Never Forget, and other titles. But her newest one is called Never Coming Home, which is available for pre-order now and will be out on May 24th. So if you're like me, you need to pre-order now, and that way you'll have this wonderful treat on May 24th. And it comes with a very intriguing tagline: first comes love, then comes murder, which I love, or at least I'm intrigued by, because of course the saying is first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes so and so and a baby carriage. Well, in this book, first comes love, then comes murder. And we get to meet Lucas Forrester. I don't want to say too much about him, but he's a husband who doesn't entirely hate his wife, Michelle, but he kind of needs her to be, well, dead, so he can inherit her magnificent wealth. And he thinks once that's taken care of, all he'll need to do is play the grieving husband. But of course, this is a Hannah Mary McKinnon novel, so things go shockingly and deliciously awry. So I'm going to bring Hannah on and ask her to tell us, not spoilers, but as much as she can about this. So welcome to Tea with Jess.
Hi, Jess. It's such a pleasure to see you again. Thank you for having me back. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you for joining me again for a little tea break. So can you give us a bit of a synopsis, of the story, the premise of your story?
Sure. And thank you for the lovely introduction. It truly was. It was wonderful. Thank you. So you mentioned Lucas Forrester, my protagonist, but who's actually really the antagonist. So I'm telling the story from the villain's point of view, which isn't something I've done in a book entirely. I've never had an entire book from the villain's point of view. So the reader knows from the beginning who the bad guy is, but not necessarily. But anyway, so so Lucas Forrester is indeed feeling very, very smug because his ailing mother-in-law, whom he actually likes, Nora, is on her deathbed. But more importantly, his wife, Michelle, is missing, presumed dead. And Lucas knows that Michelle's never coming home, ever, because he organized a hitman on the dark web to get rid of her so he can cash in. But about a month after she has disappeared and she's out of his life forever, a cryptic note arrives on the back of a blurry photograph, because somebody knows what he did, or they think they know what he did, but he doesn't know who they are, and they don't know what they're going to do. He doesn't know what they're going to do next. And so he goes from a very smug hunter, very sure of himself hunter, to a bit of a skittish prey, because they're coming for him.
I love it. I love that you flipped everything. Your protagonist is really the antagonist, maybe. He's a hunter and then he's the prey, maybe. And I just think that's really interesting. And so how was it to write from a rather wicked but a very interesting male point of view? Both parts of that, writing from a male point of view entirely, and then also writing from this wicked point of view.
It was shockingly delightful, actually. I know, right? Because so Never Coming Home is my pandemic book. It's my third release during COVID, because why not? But it's, I think, similar for you. That this will be your third. Will this be your third book release? More or less.
Yeah, third pandemic.
Yeah, right. Kind of lost count. I know, crazy.
Wow.
But this one was You Will Remember Me last year was not written during the pandemic. It was edited a little bit during the pandemic, but written in 2019 and then published in 2020 and published in 2021. So Never Coming Home, I wrote during the pandemic. So I wrote it, I think I started writing it around August. It was August 2020. So two things had happened. One, we were in the middle of the pandemic. There were no vaccines yet. It was still very, very scary. And there was no end in sight. We think there is now, but let's, cross fingers, but we're a bit closer than we were, certainly. And then in July of 2020, my mum passed away. So she was in Switzerland. I was here. I couldn't travel because of COVID, couldn't go and say goodbye. And it was horrible. It was just utter rubbish, to keep it polite. It was horrible. And so I'd already plotted Never Coming Home. And I really wanted to write something. I needed somewhere to escape to, where I could wreak havoc in a safe environment where no one's getting hurt, but where I could actually laugh, because I needed to get away from the doom and the gloom and the grief, and just I needed to escape my life, essentially. And Lucas, in many ways, saved my sanity, because although he's a con artist and a thief and a liar and a murderer, he's also very, very funny. So it's a different kind of thriller. It's different in the sense that you know who the bad guy is. You know immediately that the person telling the story is the evil one, but he's also funny. And my aim was to make myself laugh, but I also wanted to write a character that I wanted an evil character that people could empathize with, sympathize with, and dare I say even though they knew, the reader knows I shouldn't like this guy because he's all these bad things, but he's funny and I kind of get why he's doing what he's doing. And I kind of like him, even though I shouldn't, that was the character
fun.
So it was very different for me, because in You Will Remember Me, we have an evil character. And the reader, it's not very obvious from the beginning who the evil character is. And I was almost made a faux pas there, but they're not a good person. And they're not particularly funny either. They might be a little bit endearing. You can understand. I always try to convey why the people are the way they are. But with Lucas, he was just so funny and wry, and he made me laugh. And I loved writing his point of view. And as for writing a male point of view, in The Neighbors, I had a male point of view character. Her secret son was all male. One character, male narrator. And then in You Will Remember Me, I had another male character. So I'm no stranger to writing male points of view.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I love it. It's I don't know what it is. It's just different, I guess. And I try not to overthink it too much. I mean,
I think that's wise.
Yeah, we all have the same emotions. They're a character, whether they're male or female. They express themselves differently from another character. So
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, but it was delicious fun. It really was.
So did Lucas's wry sense of humor, was that there right from the beginning, or did you decide, if this character is going to be relatable and likable, guiltily likable,
yes,
I'll have to make him funny? Or did he start out? Did he have that sense of humor from the get-go?
This book, I think it was an anomaly for me, because I wrote it really fast, in something like 4.5 months, plus about a couple of weeks of plotting. And I mean, I wrote it to the point where it was an acceptable first draft for my editor, but where I felt comfortable sending it in, which is really fast. Typically, it's about 6.5-ish, maybe. But this one was really, really fast. And I plot, which helps. I detail my plots and stuff. But Lucas's voice was very, very clear right from the first page. I think his sense of humor and his sarcasm was just he was just there. Whereas with other books, I remember writing Her Secret Son, and it wasn't until late in the edits that Josh, the main character, finally showed up. And I remember thinking, at last, where have you been, mate? Where have you been? Where have you been? Whereas Lucas, just his voice was just, it was just there, and it was such a pleasure. And I remember writing, the my initial puke draft of the first couple of chapters, and already laughing, thinking, I know who this guy is. I know who he is. I know what he sounds like. I know what he wants. And it was such a pleasure to write. And I don't think that's ever going to happen again. I think it was a complete
you never know.
It might, but who knows?
It might.
Yeah. So right. I mean, I knew as I was building the outline and interviewing Lucas that I knew from the beginning I want him to be funny. I want him to be I like what you said, how did you put it?
We guiltily like him.
We guiltily like him. I may borrow that if I can.
Oh, please do. Yes. Of course. So, I know we've talked before about our books and your books, and that you've gotten ideas from newspaper articles or, something you've seen or heard. So where did this very initial idea come from?
Again, this one was different, because it was character driven. So I love movies where you root for the bad guy, where you shouldn't, but you do, and you can't help it. And there are a couple of tricks, and I won't give them away, or everyone will know what I did. But I remember thinking, I want to write a book that is from the point of view of the bad guy, but where there might be somebody worse, so that the reader likes, and I've just given one of the hints, but so that the reader really likes him or her despite themselves. And I just started noodling that around. And I had just listened actually to a podcast about the dark web, which was fascinating and intriguing and slightly terrifying, or a whole lot terrifying actually too. Yeah. And I remember just thinking, there has to be something with the dark web. What would you go looking for on the dark web? And then, well, a hitman. Obviously, or drugs and guns, whatever. But for me, it was, you're looking for a hitman. Why would you go looking for a hitman? Well, and it was, it really was the character. It wasn't something I saw in the news or something I heard. Then I went looking for stories about people who had attempted to or had been convicted of having their spouse murdered by somebody on the dark web. It's not as easy as one might think, thankfully.
That's good.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really quite reassuring. So it was character driven. It really was. It was that desire to write and from the villain's perspective and have them carry the entire book.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So, as you said, this is for each of us, our third COVID book. One comes out, it's done, but launches at the beginning of the pandemic, and then edits, and then, writing a book in the pandemic. And now hopefully we're emerging. So are you looking forward to getting back out to in-person events or in-person research, or, do you feel like, I've gotten pretty good at this, doing things from the comfort of my home?
A little bit of both. I would be very sad to see the online events disappear.
Yeah.
Because they're so great in terms of geographical or physical limitations for anybody who's viewing or participating in any way. And I think that because of the pandemic, it's done us all a favor in that sense, that so many of us were forced already. You and I, we were doing stuff online already before, but everybody took that jump at the same time to having to get used to, if you wanted to attend an event, it was online. There were no real other options. So the technology, people had that learning curve, a lot of us at the same time. So, which is very convenient in that sense. And I really enjoy them. I love the online events. there's no commute. Be able to
That's
enjoy
true.
from anywhere. I never have to say, does my bum look big in this? It's just, there's so many advantages. But I do love the in-person events too. I'm not going to any conferences this year. For me, it's a little bit too early. They just dropped the negative COVID test requirement to fly back to Canada because you still needed one. So I'm not there yet, but I think in a couple of months I think I'm scheduled at the end of April actually to be at an in-person event, which I'm really looking forward to, because that will be my first one in, well, I guess 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still just amazing to think, isn't it?
Are you going back to online? I mean, in-person events yet?
A few. Not a ton. I have a couple of talks, a book fair and a talk that I'm giving this spring, and then in the fall I'm going to VoucherCon.
Nice.
So I think that's plenty.
Yeah, it's kind of a tentative thing. I think 2023 I'll be happy to go to, say, Thriller Fest and VoucherCon as well, and do both of those. But
it'll feel
baby steps.
I think and I agree. I think having online accessibility, even if something is in person, I think having that option for people is really great, because it has kind of showed us that it's hard to get to things in person, just in general. But then there are plenty of people who have all kinds of reasons, whether it's mobility or financial or whatever, to get to in-person things. So I think the more we can be inclusive in that way, the better. Let's let that be a positive that comes out of a challenging 3 years.
Yes.
So your book comes out May 24th.
It does.
Are you working on anything new right now, or are you working on, hey, my book comes out on May 24th, I need to, get out there and talk to people about it?
Oh, I'm always working on something new. So the one for 2023 is done.
Wow.
Yeah, we just did some edits. I mean, there's another round of line edits, but those are, in comparison to the structural ones, which are the big ones, they should be minimal. So that one's done. So now I'm slowly plotting. I have the concept for the one for 2024, and I'm playing around with a few ideas. So
that's great. That's great. Anything we should know more? We should know about Never Coming Home, which is coming out May 24th.
Yeah, so it's set in Boston, which is a fun one, and a dear friend of ours, Hank Philip Ryan, has a cameo in it.
Oh, that's fun. Oh, I'm sure she knows this, right?
Oh, she does. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she read it already, and I sent it to her, and I said, well, I asked her beforehand. I said, I had to ask her about the color of her eyes, because I didn't know. And so
this sort of greenish
blue.
What color are hers?
Blue.
They're blue.
Yeah. And
okay.
I said, what color are your eyes? And she said, blue.
Excuse me?
Why are you asking? I said, well, you may or may not recognize yourself, because I don't name her in the book. She's on the TV screen. So if you know her, you will know, because
you'll recognize her.
Oh,
that's so much fun. I love that, because the two of you together do First Chapter Fun.
We do.
Which just hit 2 years,
2
right?
years. Yes.
And you initiated it and then teamed up with her to kind of build it and make it more manageable at the same time.
Yes.
I think that's fair to say.
Yes.
And it's become quite popular. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yes, it's been, I can't believe that First Chapter Fun has been going for 2 years, honestly, because it was supposed to be a 6-week project. Until
the pandemic.
Yeah, it was kind of this pandemic isn't going to last long, so by the spring of 2020 we'll be through it, and I'll do it until Sister Dear launches, which seems like forever ago. It's only 2 years. And then Hank suggested that we continue, and instead of me reading every day, which I was doing 7 days a week, to drop it to twice a week, and that we share, which is far more reasonable. And that's what we've done ever since. So I think tomorrow will be episode 248. So we've showcased not exactly 248 books, but almost, because at Christmas we have a Christmas special, so call it 246, because we have a couple of Christmases in there. So yeah, it's very satisfying to see how it has grown and how it's still popular, because we always said we will continue providing people show up and watch it. Otherwise, there's no point. We're just reading to ourselves, which would be silly. And yeah, I mean, we had the anniversary party over the weekend, and it was absolutely nuts. It was fantastic. It was so much fun. So much fun.
That's great. So, folks watching should look up First Chapter Fun, but also should look up HannahMaryMcKinnon.com, your name.com, to find out more about all of your books. And I'm guessing there's some pre-order links for Never Coming Home.
Absolutely, yes. At all the retailers, you can pre-order wherever you buy your books. Typically, you'll probably definitely find it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with me today and taking a little tea break.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in and being with us, and be kind to yourself and to others. Talk to you all later.
Thank you.